In the long, complicated story of American history, there are two narratives that often sit in tension with one another. On one hand, there's the legacy of protest, of individuals like Muhammad Ali, who famously refused to fight in Vietnam with the bold statement, "No Viet Cong ever called me N." That quote echoes down through decades as a clear indictment of a country asking for loyalty it hasn't always earned. But there's another story, too, that deserves attention. The story of those who chose to serve despite the cost, despite the injustice. Not because they believed everything their country stood for was perfect, but because they believed it could be better. Devotion, directed by J.D. Dillard, is a movie about that second kind of courage. It tells the story of Jesse Brown, the first black man to complete the U.S. Navy's basic flight training program. Brown's life and legacy are less widely known than Ali's, but they are no less significant. At a time when America was still deep in the grip of segregation and Jim Crow, Brown chose to put on a Navy uniform and become a fighter pilot. Not just fighting enemies abroad, but prejudice at home and within the very institution he was serving. Set during the early stages of the Korean War in 1950, Devotion is a war film. Yes, but it's mostly about friendship, identity, and quiet resistance. The story focuses on the unlikely bond that forms between Jesse Brown, played with intensity and restraint by Jonathan Majors, and Tom Hudner, played by Glenn Powell, a white Navy pilot who becomes Jesse's wingman and eventually his friend. But unlike so many stories of interracial friendship that rush into resolution, this one takes its time and earns every beat of trust, tension, and transformation. From the moment Brown enters the frame, it's clear that he's carrying more than just the burden of being a military aviator. He's carrying the weight of being first, of representing something much larger than himself, and of enduring the quiet, persistent hostility of a world not ready for him. Dillard doesn't shy away from showing this, he leans into it. There's a particularly gut-wrenching scene early in the film where Brown, alone in his room, stands in front of a mirror and recites every slur and insult he's ever received. He's written them down, kept a record, and now he throws them back at his own reflection, not because he believes them, but because he's trying to build armor. It's a brutal routine, and the camera doesn't flinch. We feel the loneliness of it, the fury, the resilience. In many ways, this is the emotional center of the film. Not the combat scenes, though those are impressive. Not the military drama, but this daily ritual of psychological survival. Brown has learned that strength in his world isn't just about flying a plane or following orders. It's about enduring in silence. It's about not flinching when your fellow soldiers give you that look, or mutter something under their breath, or ask, half joking, if you really belong there. And yet, Jesse Brown never becomes a martyr. He's not portrayed as some